As a kid, I loved to read books. I remember in elementary school, I would read all the books in the library. I read Harry Potter, all the Rick Riordan books, essentially. I just loved reading, truly. And in middle school, I just fell off. I just stopped reading. All throughout middle school, I only read one book, and it was because it was a required assignment. That's the only book that I read for what, 3 years, 4 years. I didn't read any books. And then only in high school, near the end of 2023, I actually started reading again. And my life has for sure changed because I started reading. And I'm just glad I started reading, truly. I learned so much from reading, and I can genuinely see my life has changed because I've read a book on it. For example, I have just you like I don't know how to explain this to you if you haven't read a book before, but if you read a book and you actually see a change in your life, it almost feels magical. You're like, oh yeah, hell, oh yeah, that worked. Like you're just surprised almost, but it shouldn't be a surprise because you're just learning. Learning then leads to growth and then actually applying the information that you know. So honestly, if I were you, I would start reading, truly. Even if it's not like self-help books like I do, like even just fiction books, like it just puts you into a new world. Like you still develop yourself if you read a book, period. It doesn't have to be a self-help book like I like to read, you know? But just reading in general truly helped me. And since I started reading in 2024, I've read 8 books in total. 8. And I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you all about them and tell you if I recommend them or not and all that. The first book that I read out of high school was Can't Hurt Me, and I know the light's a bit weird, but Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and truly I love this book. This was like I just have great memories from this book because I just loved reading it. David Goggins is a great author, and his stories are really entertaining and almost hard to listen to, but you want to keep listening to it because he's lived a hard life, obviously. But this book really helped me learn my mindset for things. In that I shouldn't give up on something just because I feel tired or I don't feel like it. You just gotta push through. Honestly, that's really the main thing that I got from this book was that you just gotta keep pushing. And hard work is the reward in the sense that you have a sense of accomplishment because of the work and all the hard work you've done and all the emotions and all that holding you back and you've trudged through that. That is the reward. And so this book really helped me with mindset. If you want to start reading it, this would be a great start because again, it just teaches mindset. And plus, he's a great author, so you actually like reading it. He's a great storyteller in that sense where you actually want to keep reading. I remember I literally stayed up late few nights because I just wanted to keep reading the chapters because truly he's a great author. I really like his storytelling. The next book I read after that was Atomic Habits by James Clear. And this book obviously, if you couldn't tell, helps with your habits. And I honestly learned a lot from it. So I learned that just for example, you should make your habits obvious. You should make it fun to do. Like you should actually want to do the habits if you want to do them. And that sounds obvious, right? But he does go in depth on how you should do that and how you should go about it, and even just how to start a habit, he talks about. But if I'm being honest, I wouldn't read this as a starter because it's really hard to build a habit if you have a negative self image. So it's hard to explain. I'll go in this more in depth in the future book that I'm going to talk about in this video, not in the future, but it's a great book, but I wouldn't read this as the first book that you read. But honestly, if you've read a few books already, then this is a great helper. And honestly, it has helped me make habits. So I can't lie, it's really helped me. And then next book is Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Honestly, it just helps you with your ego. Like the title of the book is exactly what the book is about. Ego is the enemy. It really just got rid of like I don't know how to explain it. It got rid of the feeling in me that I was better than anyone else. Like in a sense, it taught me that you're not better than anyone else. You're just you. And in that sense, you should only compete about against yourself, not against anyone else, because if you improve and you get better, then that's the marker of your success. The more you improve, the more you succeed because you're just focused on yourself. You're not focused on what other people are doing. Like, oh, I'm smarter than you, I'm better. No, this book really helped me with that, honestly. Ego is the enemy. Title explains it really well. And after that, I don't actually have the physical books next to me. So I read two books from the library. And as a side note, I would really recommend that you use libraries. Like in every single town there's bound to be a library. And especially if you can't afford books, you can literally just go to the library for absolutely free. Maybe like a membership costs like $5 or something. And then you can just read whatever book you want for free. Even if the library itself doesn't have a book, you can do like a library request where like a library reaches out to other libraries to actually get the book that you want. So eventually you'll actually get the book that you want to read, even if it's not in the actual library itself. But the first book I read from the library was Dale Carnegie's Effective Speakers. I don't think that's the whole name of the book, but that's just how I remember it. And what it taught me was just basic speaking skill. So for example, I learned to be excited whenever I talk about things. Like imagine in this video I was talking about my monotone in a monotone voice like, oh yeah, and this book really helped me, like like I just wouldn't be exciting, and because I wouldn't be excited, I wouldn't be interesting in a sense because I'm actually excited about reading, and I hope that actually shines through the video and you can tell that I like reading. But by being excited, you can actually just make your audience excited about listening to you. That's really the main thing I learned from the book. But honestly, just basic speaking skill, and it did help me, I can't lie. The second book I read from the library was Psycho Cybernetics from, I don't remember the author truly, but just search up Psycho Cybernetics and you'll find it. And I really loved the book. Honestly, I truly loved it. Again, this is one of the books where if you want to start reading, this is a great start. And what I really learned from it was the power of self-image. I really learned a lot from of self-image work and just visualizations, goal setting even. I learned a lot from the book, truly. And this is what I was talking about whenever I was talking about Atomic Habits, where it's hard to start a habit if it goes against your self-image. And so to actually change your self-image, I would recommend to read the book, and it really helped me. So I would start with either Can't Hurt Me or Psycho Cybernetics as your first book, and then I would branch out to, for example, Atomic Habits after that. But honestly, Psycho Cybernetics is probably one of my favorite books that I've read. Great read. Absolutely great read. And I also have another book from the library. I didn't actually finish it, so I'm not going to count it here, but I started reading The Magic of Thinking Big by, I think, David Schwartz, I think, but don't quote me on that. And I liked it. I honestly liked it, but I just didn't finish it because I was already reading Psycho Cybernetics. I thought it was just too much to read two psychology books back to back almost. So I will eventually go back and finish reading it, but it's a great read, but I didn't actually finish it, so I can't review it. That's just what it is. The next book I read was The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. This book honestly just helped me with relationships, especially with girls, because it really just goes in depth, explains how men and women work. Like it's hard to explain without it being sounding sexist, but truly this book isn't sexist. If you actually read it, you'll find out that it's not sexist at all. It's just a great book. I would truly recommend it. If you're a guy, read it, like for sure. Even if you're a girl, read it, right? This book honestly just helped me. Truly, it just helped me. I honestly feel that I can talk to women better and more openly and lovingly almost because of this book. So honestly, recommend this book 100%. You just like ignore the title, ignore past like some of the bad reviews, just read the book. If you don't like it, you don't like it, right? But I would honestly recommend it. Next book I read after this was The Authentic Leader by David Irvine and Jim, I think Reger, like spelled Reger. And I actually have a funny story about this book. So my mom noticed I've been reading a lot of books, and so she just looked throughout our whole house and she found a book that my my dad was given at his job to be better at his job. But I just started reading this, and truly I learned a lot both about authenticity and a little bit about leadership, but mainly authenticity. So I learned about authenticity, about your presence, and honestly just how to be authentic in the first place. I This book really did help me. Like it's hard to like it's just a weird book because it's not just an author talking to you and giving you advice. It's like like the authors interviewed a bunch of like CEOs and a bunch of people, and they use a lot of their excerpts to explain things. But if you can just go through those parts, this book did genuinely help me. I just didn't like the parts where it did just quote other people because I would rather the author just talk to me. But honestly, it did help me, especially with authenticity. I learned a lot. And the most recent book that I read, I just finished it just yesterday, is Storyworthy by Matthew Dix. I learned so much from storytelling from this book. Honestly, the author is great. I genuinely laughed out loud in some parts of the book. I'm not joking. I laughed out loud because even in the book, this book is about teaching you storytelling, but he also provides examples of his own storytelling, and I genuinely laughed at certain points because of how good of a storyteller he is. And I actually have a real world example. This book helped me learn storytelling, obviously, but I can give you an example from real life that how it helped me. So I was recently at a water park with my friend, and I just decided just randomly to try out my storytelling skill because I was close to finishing the book. And I told them the story about how I how I almost got in a car crash in another person's car, where like you can see the story if you search up on my YouTube page, how to tell a great story or what makes a great story. Like the whole story is on there, but essentially I got into the car of my girlfriend's brother, and he just started speeding in the city. Like he went up to 60 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour in the city. And he kept drifting and turning and all that, but it's a great book. And after I told him the story, he later said, like on a different day, that he was still thinking about my story. And that made me like my heart warmed up because I literally saw how the book helped me. Like he was literally thinking about my story like a day later because I read about storytelling. I honestly recommend this book. It's a great read. Even if you don't want to like improve your social skill or you don't have a YouTube channel like I do, even just talking to people, even just making friends, it helps. It helps. Clearly it helps, especially from the story I just told you. And that's all the books I've read so far. The next book I have that which I've already have in my house, I just haven't started reading it yet, is Deep Work by Cal Newport. And I'm excited to start reading it. I want to learn more about focus and deep work. I hope this video helped you. I truly love reading and I hope you do start it.